Welcome to the Voice of Vicious podcast. Welcome to the Voice of Vicious. I am your host, Vanny Vicious. Guys, I'm sweating. Look at me on a microphone, bro. What the fuck? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Voice of Vicious podcast. Thank you guys for being here. Shout out to the Twitch gang, whoever's watching live right now. I am your host, Vanny Vicious. I am joined by my co-host, none other than Mr. Rabbits305.
Hello.
And we are here today with a bad bitch that you do not want to fuck with. We're here with Maureen Shea. Everybody, introduce yourself.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thank
you for coming.
Of course. I'm sure we're going to talk about boxing today. A two-time world champion.
We're going to talk about a lot of shit today.
Originally
Cool
from
stuff.
the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We have a lot of questions for Maureen today. But
We're going to ask your bodega order.
Oh, yeah? Remember, I'm Mexican. I'm Mexican-Irish, so I don't know. There wasn't many Mexicans in the Bronx when I was growing up. That was in New Rochelle.
Yeah.
We used to go to La Esquina Mexicana to
Uy,
get some
qué
food.
rico. All right.
I love it. We're currently streaming live on Twitch for those who are watching on Twitch, and this podcast is going to be available on Friday. We put out new episodes every Friday on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify. Just search for Voice of Vicious. We're also on Twitter, IG, all of that, same name. So let's get into it. I'm excited. So, Maureen, we know that you've lived everywhere. You were in Mexico for a bit.
Yes.
You were in California for a bit.
Yep.
Now you're in Florida.
Yes, even Jersey.
Oh, and Jersey.
And Brooklyn. Because nobody goes to Brooklyn. But
No.
I lived in Brooklyn for a little bit. Originally from the Bronx.
So is Florida now your permanent residence?
It is.
Like, are you gonna stay here?
Well, I bought here.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm going to be buying anywhere else. I was waiting to buy until I was... But my mom's here. My brother lives here. My brother's family's here. So
Okay.
And it's a transient state. So, like, people come and go. So I'm
Yeah.
always going to... It's like, even if I go somewhere else and buy somewhere else, I'm always going to have a place here.
Yeah. Do you
So.
feel like Florida's like home now that you've like settled in? You're here.
You know
you've
what's
got-
funny? It's hard to say home. I'm going to get all, like, specific. But it's... I mean, yeah. It's home for me to live every day.
Yeah.
Yes. But, like, home for me, my heart is in so many places. You know, when it comes to that. Between New York and California, those I feel the most at home
Oh, wow.
when I'm
Okay.
in New York and California, I have to say.
Yeah.
Cool.
You were in California for a long time too.
8 years.
Yeah. Okay. So, being an actor, an athlete, doing things in movies. If you guys don't know, she's multifaceted. This one. What movie do you think has had the most realistic depiction of boxing? And what movie do you think has been like, you're just like, this is corny as fuck, this is so whack?
So I feel, gosh, you know.
And tell everyone what movie you worked on too.
Yes, so I worked on $1 Million Baby. I helped work with Hilary Swank. She studied me for the character of Maggie in $1 Million Baby. That was in 2003 and 4. And that was a great experience for me and a great time. And I have to, I mean, I don't want to say like I'm biased towards that, but at least with female boxing, I gotta say that $1 Million Baby really showed, not now how women's boxing is, but back then when I first started, which I began when I was 17. I'll date myself. I'm 43 years old. But yeah, so then I was 17 when I started, and back then women's boxing wasn't really popular at all. It was like people knew who Christy Martin was or Layla Ali because she had the name, but there wasn't any access to females. So I really had to like kind of learn on the job. I walked into the gym and I was like, all right, there's all men, there was no women, and I had to figure this out. So with that being said, $1 Million Baby, I feel, was probably the most realistic towards women's boxing. I think it's like one of the only ones. They had Girl Fight with Michelle Rodriguez.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like an original one where people would always say, or for some reason people always like, oh, you're like J-Lo, like enough. I'm like, no. Because I was in, because it's like I was in an abusive relationship.
boy.
Yeah.
Because I was in an abusive relationship,
Yes.
and that's how I found boxing. But I was like, no, I was like, did you really see that movie? That's like a lot. I'm like, no, it wasn't like that. But yes, the abuse. I mean, I was a domestic violence survivor. But so I think $1 Million Baby, when it comes to women's boxing, because Hillary was not taken seriously. The character, Clint Eastwood played, her coach, who looked at her and said, well, pretty and tough doesn't go together. And so when I first started boxing, a lot of people looked at me and they were just like, well, I had doors literally closed in my face. They were like, well, you don't
Wow.
look like a fighter. And I was like,
Really?
I did look the way that I was 17.
What are you supposed to look like? Like,
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
the thing. But there was such a stereotype.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, actually, like, a lot of the girls had tattoos, or they were very, like, they looked a little bit more. I was too feminine. Because now femininity in combat sport is celebrated,
Yeah.
thanks to Dana White. To be honest, he did a lot for women in sport, in combat sport, and then with boxing now it's starting to like kind of like it's happening.
Yeah,
more
but
now.
I think it's also because like a lot of female boxers are also like models on the side, or like they're doing something that brings out more of that feminine energy out of them.
But see, that's the thing though, they're allowed to, like they're accepted into it.
Right.
Where I can understand why when I first started, not many girls ever even thought about it because it wasn't considered a feminine sport.
Yeah.
Which people used to ask me, like, with boxing, I'm like, I said, I feel like it fuels boxing fuels my femininity. And they're like, how? And I'm like, because it's a balance of masculine and feminine. And I have that. And I understand that, when I first came in. So anyway, so that was what $1 Million Baby, I feel, for me, is probably the best depiction of female boxing and a lot of like what the women went through with her struggles. And if you haven't seen it, you should check it out and you'll see, although the ending's a little rough, but just focus on the boxing.
Okay.
Focus on the boxing. And the acceptance, her not being accepted and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, the Rocky movies, there was parts of the Rocky movies that I gotta say are really realistic, especially when it comes, and again, those are the more male stuff.
I wasn't gonna
Yeah, there's a lot, like the relationships and the sacrifices, and I see a lot with fighters that are like, the grind, like, where he trained, and I trained in the basement. I mean, I've trained in a lot of different gyms, so one of probably the roughest gyms that I trained in, as far as like not being like aesthetically pleasing, was the basement of a house in Paterson, New Jersey, on Park Avenue, and if anybody knows, Paterson's rough. And so, so like literally we'd walk down it, but I had the best training, like some of the best training you get in those.
Well, you're there to fucking focus because there's nothing to distract you. Yeah.
And it's like if you want to be there, you really want to be there, like you really want to fight.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to like kind of, blend in with that, and it's not like, but any gym I ever had to go to, I had to prove myself. No matter what.
I was going to ask you that, like, did you ever feel like when you walked into a new gym or a gym you've never been to or whatever, like you felt like that kind of pressure, like because I am a female, because I'm here surrounded by dudes training, like did you ever feel like you really had to, step it way the fuck up? And
I think all females feel that, you know what I mean, no matter what, just because we have so much more to prove, which is why I think we fight the way that we do, because you'll never see a boring women's fight. And again, there's fights where these girls aren't as skilled because you're not really seeing, and we'll get into that, but you're not seeing really the levels, the best fighting the best, because it's so diluted right now with stuff that we'll talk about later.
Yeah,
however,
definitely.
you know which way I'm going with that.
Oh yeah.
So, what I'll say is like, I think also my personality, which because
you have a strong personality.
Yeah, and I'm like, but I'm also like, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna earn my respect. I don't think respect. My father taught me. My father was old Irish Catholic. He was a retired NYPD detective and a Marine. My mom, was Mexican, the Mexican side. But my dad always said, like, you got to earn your respect. Like, nobody's going to give it to you.
Facts.
But so I had to do that growing up. And in the Bronx, like, that was it. And if you didn't get respected, then you fought. Because now I'm going to stand up for myself. And if you don't respect me just outright, then I'm going to beat you to respect me. I mean, that's kind of how it was, unfortunately. But I think, yes, I definitely felt that. But when I went into I remember the gym in California when I first went, like, a lot of the guys in other gyms that I went to, they thought I was a bitch because I'd go in and I didn't talk to anybody because I wasn't there to meet anybody. They thought I was a bitch and a lesbian. Like, that's 90% of the time what I got.
Wow.
And I'm not. I mean, I can be a bitch sometimes, but I'm not a bitch, I'm not a lesbian. well, maybe. But definitely not a lesbian. But so with that, it was like I went into this gym in California, I remember, and I was training and I was jumping rope and the light was, because it's green or red, and while it's green, you're working. So I'm working. And these three guys walked up to me and they were like trying to talk to me, and I just looked at them and I was like, I'll talk to you when the bell's red. And I just kept jumping rope and then just like, and it's funny because I love them. They're like my brothers today. Yeah. And they remember that and they were like, man, we were like, but I was serious. I had to set a tone.
You're there to work.
Yeah. And plus I just moved across the country. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was going through depression. I was dealing with mental illness and I was dealing with, I was on medication and I was overweight and I was just trying to get myself back to where I needed to be and to achieve my first goal, which was to become world champion.
Yeah. And when you're at that point, you're like, fuck off. Nobody talk to me.
I'm you live here. You're comfortable. I'm not. Yeah. Like in any way. Not in my body, not in my soul, not in my mind, and not in this place. Yeah. So, yeah. But I found, I think the way that I am, the person, I like the challenge, and I found comfort in discomfort. Mm-hmm. I like that.
I feel like that's key to any type of growth anyways. You have to learn how to be comfortable.
But you can't get stuck in it though. Because then you get stuck in being uncomfortable all the time, and then you don't get better.
And then you're in fight or flight all the fucking time. Yeah. It has to be a balance.
If you're too comfortable, you're not, there's such a thing of getting out of your comfort zone, but also, like, when you say if you're living that discomfort, the fight or flight is there, and that's not something you want to be in all the time because you're pushing forward off of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. What was the moment where you decided I'm gonna be a pro boxer? Was it like, were you getting into like street fights as a kid and you're like, you know what, I could actually fuck people up? Or was it just like, I don't know, you saw a movie, you saw another female boxer, you were watching a lot of boxing and you're just like, damn, I could do this shit? Like,
you know what's
what was
crazy?
the moment?
I get this. I never ever thought about it. Like, I literally went to the gym. So I was in an abusive relationship when I was 17. I went to this gym to better myself for him. It was a fitness gym. In the back, there was a boxing ring. So I said, let me go to the back and I said, let me check this out. Now, mind you, rewind, I think it was like maybe 4 years prior, 4 years prior. I was at a friend's house upstate, and his dad was having like a fight party. I didn't know anything about it, but they were all in the living room. We were hanging out in the kitchen, a bunch of us, and there was like an uproar. Like, they were like, oh my God, people were flipping out. And we all went in the living room and said, what the hell's going on? And it was when Tyson bit Holyfield's ear.
Oh, I remember
So
that.
here I am.
I was
think
watching
I
that
was
with
like
my
16.
grandpa.
I think I was 16. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, what is this? And I literally remember sitting down on the futon, like, just completely, like, mesmerized by this moment, because I struggled with rage. And I had a lot of issues. And I was like, man, I'm like, oh,
I want to bite someone's ear.
yeah, right?
Oh, boy.
I mean, I wouldn't say totally that, but I definitely wanted to punch somebody or something. And you know, when I was younger, my mom, I don't remember, mom would say I wanted like a Joe Palooka, like I want to hit something. Like my mother's like, I wish. I'm in a documentary called Fight Like a Girl, the movie, that's available on Amazon and YouTube, I think. But it's, you know, and my mom talks about in the movie, like, I should have put her in boxing then, but I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, so there really wasn't a defining moment. It was more like I went into the gym. I was approached by a trainer. He said, do you want to try? He was Puerto Rican. I spoke Spanish to him, and he was like, how do you speak Spanish? I was like, well, I'm Mexican and Irish, and not knowing that those are like the two of the toughest boxing combinations. And he's like,
literally.
and there's not many of us.
Yeah.
Mexican Irish people are like, what? I'm like, and I fight, and I'm from the Bronx. They're like, what the hell? They're like, are you single?
They're
I'm like, because you're probably.
That's an interesting cocktail.
They're like, I gotta go. I'm scared.
Yeah, that's it. Hence why I probably never got married. But yeah, so I went. So that happened, and I went and I started speaking Spanish to him, and he was like, you know, he's like, okay. So we started training, but he's like, you're going to be a world champion. And I looked at him like, all right, I just want to hit shit. So then I just started working out, and again, I had limited training, you know. But then it was like, then it was time to fight. Now it was like, I was sparring the guys, but then they brought this girl in, and I posted this on my Instagram the other day. They brought this girl in for me to spar, and I'm like...
And you were what, like 17 years old?
I was like, yeah, 17, 18 years old. I think I walked into the gym at 17, but I think I was like 18 at this point, you know? And they brought her in, but all I knew was 1, 2, slip, slip. That's all I knew. So they bring this girl in, I'm looking at her, I'm like... You know, like, this girl's skinny. Man, this little twig hit me with a left hook to my jaw.
Really?
In, like, the first round. I was like,
up.
wait a minute. And all the guys were watching. Everybody was watching. And I was like, you know, because I was tough. And I didn't care to impress. But I was like, no, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, I literally stopped the sparring. I was like, wait a minute. But I didn't realize that this was a test. You know, and everybody gets tested. Yeah. You know, and they want to see what I did with that. And I was like, wait. So, and they weren't like super like, oh, they didn't put me down. They were super supportive. The girl wasn't even nasty or like, yeah, like, no, everybody was like, okay, because she had experience. And I didn't know that. The girl was like a Golden Glove champion with like, I don't know, 10 fights. And I'm like, oh, you know, I've been doing this for like not even a year. 1, 2, slip, slip, you know? Yeah. So then and sparring with my coach and like other guys who were like, I have pictures of me sparring with these guys, and it's like I look like a little gnat, like, you know, like in the ring. So with that, you know, I went home that night. I literally cried because I was embarrassed, and I cry when I'm frustrated. And then I went back to the gym the next day, but nobody was there, and I just was hitting that bag, and I was like, 1, 2, slip, slip, as best as I could, because I was like, I'm gonna get this bitch, you know. But I didn't end up sparring her again. But I think it was in that moment I just wanted what was next. So I said, what's next? And it was like I just want to be better at that. And I think it was literally like the steps that I took and how it went, that there was never a defining moment. It was like, oh, I want to be a pro fighter. I want to be a world champion. Those never entered my mind. I was like, what's next? And they're like, okay, well, I want to fight amateur. And then it's like, all right, so what do I got to do? And they're like, you got to, you know, get your license, do this, do that. I got my license, but then my coach couldn't take me. So then I had to find a coach that would take me to the amateurs, take me to fight. And nobody took me seriously. That's when the door started closing in my face. You don't look like a fighter. This, that, and the other. And then I went to one gym. The guy was like, oh, you got to work the floor for a year. I'm like, I got my jaw almost broken by some girl. I got to work the floor for a year before I can spar and then fight in a year.
Work the floor, for those who don't know, meaning hitting bags and shit.
Yeah. That sounded pretty bad. Right? It could go a lot of different ways.
It could be like cleaning, like an apprentice.
I thought they were going to make you mop,
Yeah, it was like hitting the bag. Yeah, like you're not getting in the ring.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and then it was funny. Then I remember I was with my friend Luis Rosado, who was a welterweight. He was a very good fighter, and I told him, I was like, I don't know what to do. He's like, well, let's go to some gyms. So the third gym, I had one door closed on me. The other one, the guy told me I had to hit the bag on the floor, whatever. And then the third gym, I was like, I don't even want to go in. And he was like, listen, I'll go in. He went in. He got a business card, came out, told me the guy's name. They said they know you. I was like, I didn't know anybody knew me, you know? So I was like, all right. I went home. We had AOL at the time. I logged in to see if, you know, yeah, exactly. I logged in to see if he was on, if it was online, and he was. And I messaged him. I said, hi, my name's Maureen. I went to the gym, whatever. And he was like, okay, I know who you are. You know, when do you want to start? And I was like, tomorrow. And today he's my manager.
Wow.
So I was 20 years old when I met Luigi, and I was 20 or 21, and I met him, and he brought me to my first amateur fight. I had 12 amateur fights, but then from him he brought me to Hector Roca, who was the one that trained Hillary for the movie, and then Hector partnered me with Hillary. And then after $1 Million Baby was when we decided to go pro, because there was momentum behind me with a lot of the fame. During that time, it wasn't social media, because that was when Facebook, you had to have a college...
MySpace.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it's MySpace, but you had to have a college email to get on Facebook, which I had.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're going back to, like, this is the early 2000s.
Yeah.
2002, 2003. $1 Million Baby, I think, was 2004 or 5. I turned pro in 2005. I was 24 years old, and and then I was like, okay, what's next? So basically, to sum up the question, the answer is, what's next? And that's really how I am. Because I'm really open. That's why I think I'm so multifaceted, and I'm able to do so many things, because I'm not afraid of a challenge, but I'm also like, okay, and I'm a Christian. God is my higher power, and I just believe that He has a plan for my life. And I believed that from when I was in that abusive relationship, because my ex almost killed me.
Yeah.
And when you're literally losing oxygen to your brain, and you're saying, God, if it's my time, take me, a lot of shit becomes really real. Mm-hmm. And in those moments, I was like, I'm still here. Why? And I had to battle through finding that purpose and going through that pain and suffering and people saying no and me going into the depression and feeling I wasn't worthy and then fighting back. It was this constant fight or flight. Yeah. Constant go down, go down. But for every step I took back, I took like 5 forward. And, you know,
I feel like first of all, we're all glad you're still here.
Oh,
Definitely.
Also, it's like crazy because, you know, plenty of women have been in abusive relationships and have been through those trials in life where you have to fight your way through shit mentally. You're doing it mentally and physically at the same fucking time. So that must have been like really hard on your mind, on your body, on your spirit. Like, so, I mean,
I'll tell you
I'm glad
something.
you're here.
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you something that's really crazy that I battled with. So with the abusive relationship, like I had to get out of it. And then I had to get a restraining order, and it took me some time. I honestly, if I think back, I mean, I was already pro, so I had to be, it took a long time to get out of it, you know, and I had to get the restraining order on him to keep him, because he was, you know, he was threatening me and stuff like that. So, but I was in my first world title fight, and it was in the Garden on Coda's undercard, and I remember I got hit in that fight, and I thought I deserved it. Like, there was a flashback of the abuse, the PTSD, that I felt like I deserved it. It was so weird. It was so crazy, and I told people, I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, that's when I knew I'm fucked up. Like, I've been in therapy since I was a kid, because I had anger issues, and I had, like,
but being in relationships like that change your brain structure, like, 100%. Completely. Like, you can't even help
when I tell you, like, I had to do the work, like, I did some extensive therapy, you know, like, I was like, no, like, I wanted boxing, and that's why I say it was a gift from God, because I wanted boxing to heal me and to help me. And I feel like God brought boxing into my life for that reason. And I said no. And even when there was times where I didn't want to do it anymore and I wanted to quit, it was like something always brought me back. Because it's hard. I mean, even as a professional, you know, dealing with the politics, dealing with what we're dealing with today, these influencer boxers getting more recognition than, you know what I mean?
We're gonna get into it.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that.
So I wanted to ask you, like, being a female athlete, do you find that the pay is different from male athletes?
Oh my God.
And also, why do you think that is? Do you think there's less attention to female athletes? And
oh yeah, well, boxing was run by the good old boys. Good old boys.
Boys with balls.
So the good old boys for a long time. And, you know, again, they're and listen, I've heard things about, unless the women fight 3-minute rounds, and you see women doing it, but I'm like, why? Why can't we just be celebrated? There is a market for it, but it has to be, why? Dana White did it. But the women fight like the same as the men. I'm like, but it's a different sport. Yeah. Like, it's so different. Like, the concussion rates in MMA are not as high as they are in boxing, because we take repeated blows to the head.
Yeah, in MMA, they're going to the ground any chance they
and then they're getting choked out, and then I'm not saying that's even still, listen, they got injuries.
Yeah.
But the concussions are higher in boxing.
And there's more, like, when you say like that, in other words, there's more injury. You're more injury prone in boxing than you are in MMA.
I'm going to explain it to you. So
yes.
think about it. I have padding on my gloves.
Correct.
Okay. So I can hit you, and every time I hit you, I'm still jolting your brain.
Absolutely.
But now I can keep hitting you because the padding's protecting my hand, and it's somewhat protecting your head, but it's still hitting you. If you look at bare knuckle, where they have now the bare knuckle has less concussion rates than boxing because as soon as they get hit, they go down.
Yes.
Because there's no padding on the gloves.
Yeah.
So now, mind you, I'm doing this over and over and over again to your brain.
Yeah.
But if I hit you once or twice, you're going down.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing it repeatedly over how many rounds? Okay?
Yeah.
So this is like, and now we're talking about not just then, we're talking about sparring. So
yeah,
now,
those bare knuckle fights end quick as fuck.
Yes.
Like, you either break your hand and you can't anymore, or you knock somebody out.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's why their big claim is like it's safer than boxing, and because a lot of states didn't want to sanction it because of those reasons. But then that's their argument. But the whole thing is injuries. I mean, injuries in MMA. I think in training and stuff like that. I mean, they have more like shoulders, knees, things like that. But with boxing, brain trauma is definitely higher.
Okay. Duly noted.
So that being said, I feel like, with women's boxing, I mean, in general, like we started later on, like women's boxing, like who was making money? I mean, Christy Martin wasn't even making tons of money, and she was fighting on Tyson's undercard. You know what I mean? With Don King as the promoter, and he wasn't paying nobody. So I mean,
good old Don King, yes.
Yeah, so it's like she was a pioneer, and she was pushing through. Layla Ali, I mean, I don't know what Layla Ali made. I'm assuming she did the right thing with her boxing. She parlayed it into something different, but she never had any amateur fights, and she fought Jackie Frazier, who was, Joe Frazier's daughter, and Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier had that, so then they fought, and I'm sure that was promoted, and they got paid. But there's only certain women that are getting these opportunities. And the thing is, with women's boxing not being in the Olympics, and I always get this, either 2012 or 2013, I think it was 2012, women's boxing was introduced into the Olympics. Now, I turned pro in 2005. So you're still an amateur when you go into the Olympics. So there was no opportunity for me to go into the Olympics. So then women like myself who came before, then we're like here, and then they have these Olympians now that are getting promotional contracts because they have the marketing behind them because they were in the Olympics. And then women like myself are just like, and I'm like, well, wait.
I've been doing this my whole fucking life.
And we're actually,
I
mean, we're more seasoned pros. We've literally learned on, and there's not just me, there's tons of other women. We learned on the job. I wanted to get one.
Boom, take a shot.
I wanted to get one. I was getting jealous. Everybody's hitting the table, and I was like, wait, I haven't said, nobody's bothering me. Maybe it's my perfume. So then, then it was like, okay, well, what about us? And so I feel now, like at 43 years old, I don't need to box. I never really needed to box. I chose to box, and I'm still choosing to box because I feel like there's still a glass ceiling that needs to be broken. And the women today that are there's literally, the United States is promoting like 5 women. Like there's a ton of women that aren't getting opportunities and they're not getting, and it sucks. And I'm happy for the ones that are getting the opportunities if they're earned. But there's also a lot of women that aren't getting they're getting opportunities that weren't earned. Maybe it's because of social media following or, they like to, listen, I don't care if you're going to get on scale and weigh in lingerie. Listen, if you got it, flaunt it, good. But don't get on a scale and weigh in with lingerie for a world title fight that you weren't even ranked to fight for.
Shit
like,
going off.
That shit, like that just like gets me like, listen. Because listen, I know I look good in lingerie. Do I want to wear it on a scale? No. Am I going to do it? No. It's not me.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at if you do it. But it's like, but how about everything that I've worked towards, and me and other women have worked towards and gotten us to where we are, and we're like not getting these opportunities or these paydays.
So leading into what we were speaking about, we were speaking about how there was a certain level of triviality with female athletes, and we were talking about the parallels between the WNBA and what those athletes were being paid as opposed to the NBA players. And then it almost felt like with female boxing, like you said, there was that discrepancy, if you will.
It was like a fraction, like not even a fraction. Like,
okay,
I fought for free twice.
Wow.
No way.
Really?
Yep.
Whoa.
Were you getting the same level, like for example,
to get the experience, to get out there and get the experience,
to get
because
something on your
everybody else is like, you know what I mean? And it's like people are like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like I've earned this shit. You know what I mean?
No, that's
Literally.
a lot because it's not like, hey, tomorrow you want to have a fight. No, it's like you want to be in camp for 6 to 8 weeks and fucking drop weight and all this shit and fucking diet and drain yourself.
Big time. Do you feel also maybe the sponsors were looking more at the male athletes as opposed to, like, for example, where like you would be approached?
I think it's so frustrating because, like, do I know the answer? No. But what I do know is that the UFC and Dana White did some amazing things with these females.
Yeah.
And it was like a lot of girls got a lot of opportunity, but there's promoters because there's one promoter or Bellator, but then but they came in from Invicta, so there was like a pool that had all these women and they were getting the opportunity. Boxing doesn't have that.
Ah, okay.
So boxing has, like, we have 1 million belts, we got 1 million promoters, we got everybody, and then this promoter won't work with that promoter, who won't work with that promoter, and it's like, you know what I mean? And then now it's becoming just, I don't know. I mean, it's good and bad, you know what I mean? But I feel like even some women, like there's one woman, which I won't mention her name because I have no respect for her, I don't care what she's done in the sport, but, you know, she's out there calling men out. Like, trying to fight men.
That's insane.
Like, but like, I'm a domestic violence survivor. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to see a man and a woman fight. And, you know, like, I don't understand. I don't know if, like, people, like, I mean, maybe because I'm old. Like, I don't get it.
Why do you think she's
like,
doing that? Just attention?
Because
or
I think she can't even get fights.
Oof.
I mean, she's a freaking Olympian. Like, how are you not? Like, it's sad.
Yeah.
Either she can't get fights, but she was a big fish in a small pond, not taking anything away from her talent. But I think Ronda Rousey was also a big fish in a small pond. I mean, I'm just speaking facts.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sitting here like, and the pool of women now, they're saying there's not a lot. But now you got women that are world champions that aren't fighting the best. Right. And I'm like, but they're just handpicking these girls. And I'm like, it's like chaos.
Yeah, because you would, like, as an athlete, you would want to further your craft by fighting someone who is equal or better than you so that you can get better. Like,
yes.
What's the point?
But I also understand about learning on the job. I learned on the job, but I had challenges. I have 2 losses. 1 draw, 1 no contest. You know, and it's like, it's okay to lose.
What's your record, Maureen? Just tell everyone, just so they know.
31-2 with 13 knockouts. 1 draw, 1 no contest. Yeah, I've been doing this a long time.
She'll beat the shit out of Assad over here. And he's a grown man.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
But you know what? It's so funny because it's like,
I'll bet you're at a rib eating contest though.
Oh, what?
I don't know. I can eat too.
Do you want to?
I can throw down.
Are we doing
Wait, I gotta
this?
stretch my stomach first.
Are we doing this?
I lost some weight.
We will do this.
Let me go spar. And let me come in. I'll be like, all right, I'm ready.
Yeah,
no water.
Flanagan's. We're doing it.
Oh my god, I'm gonna be sick for like a month.
Yeah. Sugary
I
ass.
need a total gut reset.
Help me, somebody. Help me.
I took.
But anyway.
Ass barbecue sauce.
Oh god, my diabetes. Wilfred Brimley has entered the chat.
For real. So speaking of like your diet, now that we're talking about fucking ribs and I'm getting hungry.
Yeah.
Walk us through your camps. Like, how long are your camps for those who don't know? What are like the do's and don'ts while you're in camp? What's most important rituals that you have, whether that's a cold plunge, a sauna, fucking meditation, whatever it is? Like, walk us through those weeks.
So I like to eat. I've seen too many fighters, male and female, struggle to make weight. I don't do the baths and the saunas,
the
and
alcohol and all that shit.
I have none of that. Like, I've never had to do any of that.
So I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Wait, what you were saying?
Crazy.
Oh, the alcohol. I've never heard.
So some fighters, from what I know, take hot ass baths and put rubbing alcohol inside the water so that they can sweat and like dehydrate themselves.
Okay.
Now, mind you, let's go back for a second to what separates the brain from the cranium.
There's a little thing called the meninges, which is the layer. It's like a sack of a fluid, right?
Fluid, liquid.
Yes.
So when you're dehydrating your body,
your brain's gonna bounce around a little bit, and
without the fluid,
and that probably leads to injuries.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you see why I did that?
Yeah.
So like going back to what we talked about, but so for me, I like to stay within 10 pounds of my weight.
Okay.
So I fight at 122 pounds. Now, throughout my career, if you look at my record, I fought a lot at 130, even higher. I fought a girl in Mexico at 170, which I was not 170. I was like 138 with like...
What?
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. It's Mexico, though.
Well, it's
Mexico. I fought a lot in Mexico.
Yeah.
But, you know, Mexico, listen, those girls will fight.
That's insane.
Those girls are tough.
Yeah.
Well, that's a funny story. This girl, I got on the scale and I had on like pants and like phones in my pockets. I think it was like 136.
With everything on.
Yeah. But we knew, and I didn't like, I was like, man, I don't feel right. I'm not sweating out. Like, what am I going to do? So we get there and the girl comes in and I'm like, we're looking for my opponent. She comes in, she gets on the scale and she's like a little stocky girl. And I'm like, and I looked at my coach and he's like doing kilos because it's all kilos.
Yeah.
And he's like, do it. And he's like, and he did it again. He goes, she was 171 on the scale. I was 136.
So the next day she was 185, 200
knows?
pounds.
I have no idea. Yeah. Well, maybe she didn't make weight. Maybe she didn't care. Maybe she's like, oh, well, then I won't fight. But I was like, oh, no, we're fighting.
Yeah.
So then the commission came to me and he was like, because I was like, no, I didn't go through a camp.
Exactly.
Which would be like normally a 6 to 8 week training camp of like not eating, sacrificing, training, the sleeping, all that, not going out, not socializing much, you know. To not fight. I was like, no, we're fighting. I came to Mexico. I'm like, we're fighting.
I'm here.
So
Yeah.
it was me and my coach. We called my manager, and he's like, because the commissioner from the in Tijuana, the boxing commissioner, was like, listen, this girl's got a record. She's fought. I think she was like, I don't know, 6 and she had 5-2 or something like that, 6 and something. And he was like, I don't want to, like, this is your decision. Don't feel pressured. I'm like, no. They're going to try to talk me out of it. I'm doing this. So he was like, well.
You're like, I'm in fucking Tijuana.
Yes, and I'm about to fight. So, and then I looked at him and I was like, he was like, because women, so not women, anybody under, I think it was, I want to say 154, fights with 8-ounce gloves. And then anybody above fights in 10-ounce gloves. And so I'm like, well, they're like, well, what do you want to fight in 10s, 8s, or 10s? Because, like, we're both on the opposite side. So I was like, well, put 10s on her and 8s on me. Like, oh, we can't do that. And I was like, shit. Like, all right, well, then put 10s on us. Because I don't know how hard this girl hits.
Yeah.
So they put the 10-ounce gloves on. She was a 4-rounder. Supposed to be a 6-rounder. They turned to a 4-rounder. She tried knocking me out the first round and a half. And then I pretty much walked her down the rest of the fight. And then I won the fight. And I was like, and then they ranked me at 170 pounds.
So basically, you boxed the sumo wrestlers.
Basically, pretty much.
Jeez.
In Tijuana at a freaking, it's called Las Pulgas, which you know what Las Pulgas
the
means.
fleas, for those who don't know.
And it was like they had the most beers on tap. And there was a guy sitting ringside smoking a cigarette. Man, this is like a movie.
I
Like,
want to go there right
so
now.
Apollo, so not Creed 1.
Okay, yes.
If you see the opening scene when he's in, and he's in Mexico, his first fight's in Mexico, and he's like in this like dungeon, and they're all that's real. Like
really?
that, it was
wow.
it was
okay.
like, I fought a couple of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But you have to be so mentally tough.
Yeah.
And like be like, and you're not A side, B side, like fixed, not fixed. It doesn't matter. You're in Mexico.
Yeah.
Like you're fighting. Like and these girls do not lay down.
Roosters.
Yeah, legit. Like it's like I was outside. Oh no, there was. I mean, I can tell you stories.
Someone bet money on you, and you better make sure you fight. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I've been approached by cartel and
I
Los
bet.
Mochis. And,
Oh,
yeah, it's been. Listen, wait till my book comes out.
Oy, oy, oy.
What
Yeah.
a fucking journey.
Oh yeah, it's funny.
So
it's
do
interesting.
you okay, so if you're, let's say this ever happens, I don't know if it's happened to you before, but have you ever gotten a fight at the weight, like what's it called?
A weigh-in?
No, on short notice. Have you ever gotten a fight on short notice at like your pretty much current weight, and then it kind of feels weird because you're not doing like a full camp? Like,
No.
does that throw you off in any way?
So I'm very fortunate, and so I always fought on my terms.
Okay.
I never took last minute fights. My management, I'm self promoted, so I never had a promoter. I've gotten to where I am. I fought for 4 world titles. I won 2. I got a draw for 1, and then I lost 1. So I've always fought on my own terms, and I wouldn't do it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I know there's girls out there and guys out there that do it, and kudos to them if that's that they. But I'd rather I'll not fight.
Yeah, I think
like,
it's pretty crazy. Like when I see like, oh, he took the fight on a 4-day
But that's a
notice,
choice.
and he
But that's a
had to
choice.
cut 30 pounds. I'm
But
like,
you
what
know why?
the
You gotta
fuck?
understand, a lot of these fighters don't have the opportunities. They don't know how to create the opportunities.
Yeah,
or
yeah. They gotta take it when it
they
comes.
have people around them that aren't leading them in the right direction, or they just want a payday. There's so many like variables to that, where like, and listen, I can't respect somebody more or less if they take a fight on short notice or if they don't. But I know to the public, because the media and whatever else is out there is making it sound like, oh, they're tough. I'm like, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's tough.
Yeah.
But I understand and I have empathy and compassion for those that don't have a choice. Because that's a fact too.
Well, yeah.
And I've seen
some
that.
people
And
need
that's
the
not-
fucking
that's-
money, and
yeah.
they have to take
Or
it.
they're just not getting fights and they want it that bad. And you know what? We need people like that. But those freaking guys and girls are tough as shit. A lot of them are tough because they're fighting for so much more. And that's why I'll tell people, I never underestimated anybody I ever fought. I don't think I ever had a girl take a fight on last minute, like short notice. I don't think my manager, not that I would know, because he's very transparent with me, and I never want, like, he's like, what's the point of me having you go in there with somebody to take a dive? Like, what's that going to do for you?
Yeah.
I want you to go in there and be challenged every time. And I was, so I'm grateful for that. But there's a lot of women. I just commentated a fight out in Houston, and Susie Ramadan, who's a multiple-time world champion from Australia, she hasn't fought since 2022. She fought a girl from Hungary who hasn't fought since 2022. And
It's just insane because, like, how? Like, what the fuck? When was your last fight?
August of last year. But same thing. Well,
And what happened? Tell everyone what happened with that last fight that you were gonna have.
So then they canceled the fight. Well, I was supposed to fight June 7th, but then the promoter had an agreement or had a verbal, like, we were going to do it, and then another promoter got involved, and now there's like no room on the card. And but I was sick anyway, so I'm kind of like okay with that. But there was other fights that fell through because the hardest part for me is getting opponents. And they're like, oh, well, why don't you fight the champions? I'm like, okay, well then pay me to fight the champions and make it on even ground, or, you know, like, okay, let's do it. You know, I'm not opposed to, and make it my weight class. Like, I'm getting offered fights to fight at 130, and they're like, oh, why should I? I've been doing this for 26 years, 19 years as a professional. I'm not going to I don't need to do this on, oh, then you're not going to, like, how is that even fair?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's not just me. This is happening to other females. Susie Ramadan, like I said, she had to go up in weight classes. She's a freaking 115 pounder. And she fought a girl at 122. Like, why are you know what I mean? But she did it. You know what I'm saying? She lost the fight, but she put up a hell of a fight. But it's really not fair.
Yeah.
Then the girl went on to lose and then got another world title shot.
And there is enough female boxers to have fights at your weight class. It's just, you know, the other.
It's the
shit
well,
that
they're
comes with it.
but they're like, oh, well, then promote yourself. I'm like, I promote myself. Just look at me. Give me a mic. Give me the opportunity to promote
that's
myself.
the thing. It's like, what am I supposed to fucking do? I'm doing everything I can, and at this point, now fucking what?
Yeah.
Like,
well, then they want you to do the lingerie and the OnlyFans. Again, not like, I don't judge people. We had that conversation. Like, I have my opinion, but I don't judge person on what they. But when it comes to sport and it comes to like the best fighting the best, because you got an OnlyFans with like 500,000 followers and you can't fight worth a shit, but you're get that like. The Bronx is gonna come out. You can hear it.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'll fight you with your fucking OnlyFans fucking outfits.
So what you're saying is basically now it's like you got to take it. We've noticed that a lot too. You know, creatives in the art world and everything. Now it's not just about what you create or what you do. Now you have to be like a one-man machine where you have to do your promo, you have to do your videos, you have to do that.
Well, now it's like you do, and I get it. Like, you're self-promoted and you have to go out there and do it. But like, you know, I work too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I own a home, I own my car, you know what I mean? Like, I have responsibilities, and it's like, you know, so it's like a catch-22. But listen, I'm in a good place. I believe that I'm in a good place, and they're gonna have to try to get rid of me, but they're not gonna get rid of me because I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like these fucking gnats.
seriously,
You know?
I'm about to fucking slap another.
Drink.
You got it. I think you got it.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
But
yeah, it's just you know, again, I hate it because it pins. There is part of this that pins women against each other, and I'm not against these women, but I can understand their side, which I get it. But can you understand my side? You know what I mean? Like, understand where I'm coming from and the frustrations that women like on my side feel.
Yeah.
That don't want to have to do what they don't want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to promote. I'm willing to get whatever. You know, the story's there. I speak 2 languages. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Speaking of the 500,000 followers, tell us what your thoughts are on this, like, influencer boxing, celebrity boxing shit. Do you feel? Sorry, I said shit. It's shit. Do you feel that it's like it makes boxing be seen in a positive light? Do you feel like it kind of makes a mockery of boxing? Like, how do you feel about the whole influencer shit?
So I think as long as people understand what they're watching, that's what that is.
Yeah.
That understand the difference. Like, you're gonna take, you know, even Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, and now you've got Usyk and Tyson Fury. Like, there's no comparison here. You can't compare this, and this one's generating a lot because of how it's. But I get, you know, it's the followers, it's all that, but I mean, it's like people don't care about real boxing, or they don't know, they're not being educated. So, but today is just a click culture, just like, oh, like the drama, the this. I mean, I think there's a ton of drama in boxing. I mean, look at Ryan Garcia's fight, with Devin Haney. That was great.
Yeah,
I mean, that was 2 skilled fighters. But listen, everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the face. That's what Mike Tyson said. And boxing is 90% mental, 10% physical.
I also feel like with Ryan Garcia and Haney, like they actually have skill. Like,
100%.
When you watch when you actually watch, I mean, they're real boxers. When you watch this influencer shit, it looks like
but see what it is,
idiots smacking each other.
So what's hard for me is the female part of it, because women's boxing isn't. People don't even know. Oh, do women fight the same as men? Do they fight the same way? Like, people aren't as educated enough in women's boxing, so now they're being like, it's like almost being like, you know, convoluted with this crap, and now you're like, no, that's not women's boxing. And of course, these women doing it are going to be like, oh yeah, I'm working so hard, I'm this and I'm that. Listen, I'm sure you are, but you have no idea what a real training camp looks like. You know, because you wouldn't look like that.
Right.
And it's not like they're, I mean, you know, it's also like I don't know any female. Like I didn't look like that when I was an amateur. Like you start, you're not going to look great, but they're turning. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're.
Yeah, I just feel like because I've seen a few of them, and I feel like they don't get better. Like they look the same.
Because they don't need to.
Yeah.
But what are they doing?
Like why? I know that's what I don't understand about it. It's like why do it if you're actually not trying to learn how to?
Because they're getting paid. And they don't care.
But it's crazy to me to not give a fuck that that's what you look like in a ring. Like, I don't know how to box.
But you have integrity. Like I think they lack integrity. Like, or they just care about the money.
Yeah, like I'm not a boxer. I don't know how to fucking box, whatever. But I know that it looks dumb when I see it.
Well, you've seen what real female, but you're also very, like, but you know what? Here's the thing. I think it's also like WWE. I think some of boxing's turning into WWE. So maybe they're trying to. And listen, if they're marketing it and it's being successful, like I'm not going to hate on Jake Paul. I'm not going to hate on these people. Like they're making their money.
He was like the first one to do it.
Yeah. But you know what? I give Jake a lot of credit. I've been in his training camp. I've seen him train. I've been to a couple of his sparring sessions. Listen, he does basic really, really well. And the way he's being brought up is correct. He's fighting guys that aren't that great. He's learning on the job. You know, and he's figuring it out. Like, I'm not going to... And he works hard.
But, like, to me, even when I see him, I feel like he looks like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, then there's other ones that I'm like, what the hell is going on?
He's not really involved in Misfits, right? He's most valuable.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called Misfits for a reason, too. Yeah. It's, like, not... You know what I mean? But
would you ever fight an influencer?
They wouldn't fight me.
You never know. Paige Van Zandt is fighting an influencer.
But she's not a boxer. I trained Paige.
I mean,
I worked with her a bit. God bless her. Paige is tough. She's not a boxer. Paige is an MMA fighter. Paige did bare knuckle, but Paige wasn't successful in bare knuckle. And I like Paige. I do. We follow each other. I like her. I do. But she's not a boxer. I think she'll beat but she's an athlete.
No, she's gonna.
And I think she's gonna beat the shit out of this girl.
Yeah.
You know, but but maybe Paige has to learn on the job too. But I think Paige can definitely get better at boxing. You know, I think bare knuckle. Listen, I give her a lot of credit. I don't do bare knuckle. She did it. God bless her soul.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, you gotta be tough as fuck for that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a different kind of like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't say like, and that's the thing I tell people. I'm like, listen, they're no tougher than anybody who does MMA or boxing. It's a different fight. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I personally choose not. Doesn't mean I'm not tough. It's just I choose not to do it. You know what I mean? Like I don't, and any other woman that doesn't feel like they want to do it. You know, but you know, I just think that's. Yeah, that's. I mean, good for her though. I'm glad she's getting the fight. She deserves it. I don't know. You wanna watch it with me?
Yeah, let's watch it together. Let's watch it and do a live stream on Twitch of our reactions and shit.
That would be interesting.
Okay. Take my commentating to a whole new level.
I want to watch it. There's a lot of females on that card. From what I've seen.
Yeah. And listen, I can be like honest and be like, no, I think I can tell you what I think they need to work on and what I think they need to get better on. You know, but I think when it comes to, I think Paige is going to do well just because she's an athlete. She's fought MMA.
She has way more experience anyways.
Heck yeah. And she, even the bare knuckle stuff, even though she didn't win, she got a lot of experience. Mm-hmm. And I think that she's going to go out there to win, you know, no matter what. Yeah. She's got a lot to prove.
Do you have a prediction for the Jake Paul fight?
So,
and your thoughts, obviously.
Well,
your thoughts on it, yeah.
I don't know what's real anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's my problem. And that's my problem with even, like, you know, and a lot of these influencers and a lot of these people, like, they're really good actors. And they're really good at selling. So I don't know what's real and what's not. Like, look at Ryan Garcia duped everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was kind of like, Like, I was like, all right, this could go one of two ways just because I know the business, you know? And I'm like, I had a feeling. I was like, Oscar is way too calm. Oscar De La Hoya was way too calm while he was acting like, even though I was getting letters from because I'm on the board with the WBC, and I was getting letters from Mauricio Suleiman. You know what I mean? I don't think he was in on it. He's the WBC president. I don't think he was in on it, but he was like, we're concerned. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
he's out of his fucking mind.
Like, this is crazy, you know? But I just don't know what's real. And I know that they're wearing 12-ounce gloves. I know that is it 12-ounce gloves? Yeah, I think it's 12-ounce gloves. Yeah. They're fighting 2-minute rounds.
I also believe that Jake is allowed to wear headgear.
Correct. Yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah. I think that's one.
And
of the
at any
rules.
time they can stop the fight if it's. See.
I also saw. I don't know if this is true or not. This is what I've seen on Instagram. Whatever videos that pop up. I also saw that one of the rules is that Jake has to approve all the judges himself. Headgear.
I mean, that's not uncommon in boxing for like the promoters to approve the judges and.
It's Tyson though. I mean, like, give him.
He's getting Tyson this payday. I think that, you know, I mean.
Oh, I also read that Tyson has to pretty much complete every round to make the most amount of money. Like, he cannot go in there and try and knock Jake out in the first round.
But like, you don't even know what's true and what's not.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying. Like, this is all speculation.
I've heard things, and then I've heard other things, and Derek and I, have talked about it, and I'm just like, I just don't get it. Now talk about the fight that's on that undercard between Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. Now that's a fight I'll talk about. That's a fight that's worth the attention, but that's bringing the seriousness back to the sport, the women. So there's proof right there that it's marketable. You know what I mean? But there's other promoters. I mean, Jake Paul, God bless his soul, he gave Amanda Serrano an opportunity. I mean, okay, then maybe Shadesha Green fought one time, Franchon Cruz fought another. I'm like, but how many women is he really helping? Crystal Rosado, this young girl that's coming up. I mean, she's with Amanda Serrano. Okay, that's 4 women. Like, there's a shitload of women that aren't getting these opportunities. I'd like to see Jake Paul put like 6 women on the card, and maybe 2 fights, 2 male fights, or like 3 and 3. Yeah. Like, that to me would be like, okay, now he's doing something for women's boxing. Like, I'm not just okay with just that. Yeah. And it's just different. But that's a fight. Now that fight, that's going to be a great fight. I mean, and Amanda's coming up in weight. Amanda's come up and down in weight. I think that's going to be a great fight. I have a lot of respect for both fighters. They're getting back in. This is the rematch. I'm gonna edge out Katie Taylor in this one. I think that the last fight was a close fight. I had Katie Taylor winning the last fight as well, and I think that this is. I think this one's gonna be that too. I think. I think Katie's a smarter fighter. I think Amanda's coming up in weight. I think it's just gonna be a different fight.
Interesting.
Not for nothing. I hope Tyson wins.
Oh, back to the real.
I think.
But that's what people are talking about. Nobody's talking about the female fight. Yeah. It's because of the craziness. Because there's no craziness. Like, is that what we want?
Is that how are they? Like, yeah, you can't compare it because they can show.
But
the
there's
females
real boxing
fans.
But then there's real boxing fans, and then there's casual fans. Yeah. So casual fans that don't understand are getting. And listen, there's boxing fans that are like, but most real boxing fans are just like appalled. You know what I mean? And listen, I'm like, whatever. I look at it as one's entertainment and one's a real fight. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm like Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. Everybody's like, oh, that's real. I'm like, that's not a real fight. Yeah. And 90% of the people say that, or 99% of the people say that, are casual fans.
And it's hard, like, as a woman, too, being on that card, because how are you supposed to, like, upstage fucking Mike Tyson?
Well, real boxing fans.
With all of this,
But,
promotion.
Mike's giving them a lot of respect. Jake gives them a lot of respect. So that's nice to see. I mean, like, listen, I have my opinion. I'm a very opinionated person, as you can see. But, like, and it's okay. You don't have to agree with me. I'm fine with that. I'm just very strong in my opinions. But I can agree to disagree, and I can hear other people's opinions. And I can be like, you know what? You may be right. You gave me something to think about. Yeah. But when it comes to this, like, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, and I think that it's getting more casual fans, getting more people. And MMA, I think, I don't know if it was like the brutality of the sport, or MMA is it's more of like a team sport. Boxing's not really a team sport. No. They got this, they're doing this team combat league now where, like, it's kind of weird, where they have boxers, they have all these different, like, with different weight classes, male and females, and then they fight one round. And then a team can win.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So this is their second season. We have one of the girls on the team. They actually asked me to do it. I was like, no, I'm good. I'm like, I'm too old for that shit.
Like,
one round.
Like gymnastics? Like what?
Like, no, it's not even that. I'm like, it's like, so no. So basically you have like, say, I'm fighting, you're fighting.
How many people are in a team?
I want to say like there's I don't remember.
It's a 3-on-3
or something like that, or it's like so say it was 3 against, well, it's more than, I think it's like 7, so it's like 7 or 8 rounds, but there's two total rounds, and then there's like a money round, which
so you just like take turns.
So basically you fight a girl on the other team, your weight class,
down.
Your thing.
I'm fucking down.
Yeah, and then the other one, you have one round, and then you just it's interesting, but the whole point of my what I was saying was like, that's probably the most team-oriented thing I've ever seen boxing do. Because MMA now, you don't really see boxers holding mitts for other boxers. Like MMA, your training partners are your men and women because they know how to work, they know how to do, like, they're always together.
You're like wrestling with them and whatever.
Boxers is usually the boxer and the coach. And there's very few the boxer and the assistant coach. You know what I mean? It's not really like a boxer is going to be working mitts with another boxer because unless the other boxer is like on his way out or trained to be a coach, or, I mean, one of my teammates will work mitts with me sometimes because he likes to do it, but it's not his job. It's not really like the team thing. It's more very independent. So I think, maybe they're trying to bring like it's a different audience, and they're trying to get like another audience. I think Jake Paul has definitely brought more eyes onto boxing. I mean, I'm glad he's doing it the way he's doing it because it's serious, it's respectful, and he's doing what he's, even though he's fighting whoever he's fighting, he's doing it like no different than any other fighter coming up and learning on the job.
Yeah.
It really isn't if you look at it, I mean, he lost to a real boxer, Tyson Fury's brother Tommy. Okay. But Tommy also was like a new boxer and was still learning on the job, and that was I think that was the most equal fight he ever had, Jake Paul, and he lost. But that's okay, but he's still fighting.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing to show that you can still lose and win. You know what I mean? In other ways and be given opportunities, but a lot of fighters, they lose, they don't get other opportunities. If they lose 2-3, but MMA, you got girls and guys with 5 losses and 7 wins, and they're still getting paid and they're getting fights. So there's a lot of issues with the sports, the sport in general.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes back down to Tyson and Jake, I think I don't understand it as a boxer. So, that's the things that, I struggle with a lot of different things, when it comes to but again, that's where my faith comes in. I'm just glad that I'm just like.
How do you counter some of the more physical effects with your career as far as, injuries or anything?
Well, that's what I never really fully answered the question before because I kind of went right, which I do that sometimes. Sorry. So with a training camp, what it looks like for me. So let's say a 6-week training camp. So say I'm going to fight in 6 weeks. So I'm usually I'm already in good base shape right now. My weight, I'm actually under.
Well, because you don't stop training.
No, and because it's a lifestyle, and I do stop. I'll pause a little bit on the boxing just to maintain my shoulders and stuff. But I love to run. It's definitely my therapy. I run at a low. I keep my heart rate low.
If you said you pause the boxing because shoulder, why does it damage?
No, I have a lot of wear and tear. My shoulders are good, but my joints are gonna start taking a lot of wear and tear.
Okay.
So I'm just I don't really I'm not gonna learn much more in boxing. I've been doing this for so long that I'm going to just perfect what I already have or add 1 or 2 things, which I can still create and try new things because I'm always evolving. But in my mind, the way that I think and what I create, but my style is always going to be my style.
Gotcha.
That's really not going to change. I'm a defensive fighter. I'm a boxer puncher. I like a boxer on the inside. I can box on the outside. I feel like I'm like a free fighter where I can really do anything in there. I can turn southpaw. I can fight orthodox.
You're left foot forward.
Yes,
or, yeah.
I can do both.
Okay,
but I don't.
okay.
I don't stay right foot forward. But that's a southpaw.
Okay.
But I can fight southpaw.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I do it to challenge myself because the thing with me is it's funny. Derek says it. He's like, you get bored sometimes in the gym. I'm like, yeah, because I can only hit the bag. I do get bored sometimes. So I like to do other things.
Gotcha.
I like sparring, but I don't spar unless I'm in camp. So 6 weeks out, I'm only sparring twice a week. We'll start with just 5 rounds. We stay at 5 rounds. Even if I'm fighting a 10-round fight, we'll stay at 5 rounds. Then we'll go up. I may or may not, because if you can fight 8, you can fight 10. If you can fight 6, you can fight 8. So you kind of just be playing around with that. And then I know my body well enough to know I'll strength and condition twice a week. I'll run twice a week. I don't do 2-a-days every day anymore. I do 2-a-days twice a week, and then I do single days. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I box. Tuesday, Thursday, I run and I strength train. Saturdays and Sundays, I take off. But
that's important too, is those rest days are important.
But when I was younger, and this is to a lot of younger athletes, but I get it because I was like a neurotic. I was so neurotic that the days of my fights when I was an amateur, I was in my 20s. I was running 3 miles the morning of, because I didn't know what to do with my energy.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, that's stupid.
Now I'm a little tired.
Yeah. So that was and the weight was fine. Everything was fine. So it was that kind of stuff. But it was but boxers are so stubborn, which is why we do what we do. 99% of us are stubborn, and we have to learn the hard way. A lot of us probably have similar backgrounds and stories, but and there's relation there, to that. Being the black sheep of the family usually, or stuff, or fighting or things like that. But I think that now for me it's those are basically my trainings. You know what I mean? So 6 weeks of that, off Saturdays and Sundays. I try to do non-boxing related things. Sometimes in camp I want nothing to talk about boxing, and it's hard because my boyfriend's involved in the sport. So sometimes he's like, I want to watch the fight. You can watch it out there. I'm just I can't.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody's I have 4 belts. They're not in my house.
You're I'm watching a drama on TV.
Yeah. I'll go watch Jersey Shore or some
the Real Housewives.
Some crazy I just want to just be brain numbing.
TV.
Yeah, just watching it, just be but he's watching Insecure right now. Have you seen that show?
No.
Oh my god, I don't know. I can't get into it. He's obsessed.
What is it?
I don't know. It's a show, but it reminds me of the Real Housewives. These girls are going at it. I'm looking at him. I'm
dramatic as fuck.
But he's I've been watching this show. He's it's no different than the shows you watch. And he's all defensive. I'm bro, I'm not attacking you. I'm just asking.
I'm not judging you.
But I came into the bedroom last night. I was how long are you gonna watch this for? I was like, let me just finish my episode. I thought it was so funny. You're so like, I was like, I'm such an asshole. He's so patient. Thank you, Derek. You're wonderful, and I love you.
She loves you so much. She tells me all the time. So we were obviously doing, I mean, I know you personally, but we were doing our research on Wikipedia and stuff like that. And I don't know if you know this, but it says that you're a vegetarian.
Oh, so I was.
Were you? Okay.
I was a vegan.
Really?
So I was. So
I'm like,
I know.
I'm like, hold on.
You know me.
He told me, he's like, is she still a vegetarian? I'm like, no. I'm like, wait, we were talking about eating ground beef yesterday. I'm like, no, she's not a vegetarian. So what was the switch there? Like,
and you'll understand this. So I had emergency gallbladder surgery when I was 18 years old. And the last meal that I ate was gnocchi bolognese.
Oh.
And I was rushed to, I know, amazing. I was rushed to the hospital, and it was super traumatic. They were like, if you would have waited any longer, your gallbladder would have ruptured, you would have had sepsis and died. They couldn't believe that I was passing stones, and I thought they were menstrual cramps. That's my pain tolerance. It's extremely high. Yeah. And my mother has it too. And I was just like, I remember they just put me on Demerol, and I was like, ow. All right. Like, what are you doing tomorrow? Like, we're going to cut me open? I had to sign some waiver, like, saying, like, it could be the big cut or the laparoscopic. And I was
boy.
So, yeah, literally the next day, they did that to me, and I had the gallbladder taken out. So then from then on, I was like, I think it was, like, just subconscious. I just didn't want to eat meat. Okay. And I was just started doing my research and stuff like that, and then I was like, oh, well, let me try this vegan. So what's crazy about that is I was a vegan.
How did you feel boxing when you were
You know what? I actually felt fine. I think I'm just a high energy person, but my body fat was higher then. I was vegan for a while, and then I went out to California, and I got approached by PETA. And they wanted to do a photo shoot with me, and they wanted me to be involved in their campaign about you don't need to eat meat to be strong and healthy. Okay. So here I am doing a PETA shoot. Then I find out that I'm like top 100 sexiest vegetarians of PETA. And I'm on Veg News. Okay. And I'm like all over, like the vegan thing just kind of like, it's like Hillary Swank's sparring partner is a vegan. And it was like all over, and I was like, that's not what I didn't like. It wasn't like, I love animals, don't get me wrong. But I was just like, I'm doing this because I had my gallbladder. Like, it was like, I'm like traumatized. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I was but you know what? The lifestyle stuck, and I was vegan. Then I was raw food, and I met some wonderful people in the communities. Like, they were.
I feel like that's a huge movement in California too. Like I
was in New York first.
Oh.
No. I was a vegan in New York.
Were you on the raw food in California or New York?
No, New York.
Really?
Because I met a young girl she was a model, beautiful girl. And she worked in this raw food restaurant and that I would go to in the East Village. And she survived cancer. And she really educated me a lot on the food and what worked for her. And again, what worked for her doesn't work for everybody. Mm-hmm. But listen. So there was a point where there was a boxer, okay? And he used to drink his own urine. Because Marquez. Yeah. So it has the antibodies or whatever, not antibodies. It was like an antibiotic or something.
It's certain antibiotics. Like for example, I've read about the practice in India where they'll drink cow urine and then
France
too. And they'll actually culture a lot of antibiotics from cow urine, and that's actually a practice that's going on. And even like places in Africa, they'll actually bathe and shower in cow urine because that's the only source of liquid that's in the area, and it's also, for example, good for brushing your teeth, etc. When you start researching
so
these
I wasn't doing it in cow urine, but but there was a moment where I learned about the urine, and it wasn't because Marquez was doing it, but I literally peed in a cup and it was sitting there, and I was like, can't do it.
I was gonna ask you.
It was like a raw food thing.
I would have
I could do it.
I don't know.
Was it because you ate asparagus before?
No. It depends on the color of the pee. Honestly, like if it's really clear, it might be.
Oh no, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. It was the whole. I said my pee was clear. I was fully hydrated, but I was like, I just can't. But there was more about like cancer, and I mean not that I had cancer, but she went through it, and she really educated me on a lot of things. And the raw food was really good. I used to go to this vegan restaurant called Pure Food and Wine. Okay. And they actually they sponsored me. The One Lucky Duck was the name of the company, and they sponsored me. They were all pure, raw food and stuff. And
so when did it change when you started eating meat again?
So I was out in California, and it just hit me one day. I was like, I'm gonna eat a steak.
Is that the first thing you had back?
Did you just feel like you needed it? It was, like you felt.
I think I was just so stubborn, maybe, but I was just so listen. I'm the kind of person I haven't chewed gum since last May.
Really? Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just stopped chewing gum, and then every time somebody offered me, I'm like, let's see how long I can go without chewing gum. I don't like things to control me. I'm a little, yeah, all right, I'm crazy.
Okay.
Gum.
Yeah.
But I can stop coffee tomorrow. I just, because I'm not an addictive personality, but I have like this, well, I think with me, like, I did drugs when I was younger. I did a lot of things, and I was like very like, but I wasn't an addict, thank God. But I did have I was a food addict, so I had a food addiction where I was a binge eater, and I went through all this stuff when I went through depression and all this thing. So from then on, and I've gone into program. I went to Overeaters Anonymous. I did 90 meetings, 90 days, 12 steps, the whole thing. So I can relate a lot to addicts, and I'm just like, I always like to like check myself because I'm really good with food now. But I like to check myself when it comes to certain things. So I think the vegan thing was like me in that moment where I'm like, no, I'm going to stick to this and see how long I could go.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay.
So at some point I'll chew gum again.
I actually went vegan like 6 or 7 years ago. I went vegan for 6 months. And at this time, it was like the biggest my legs have ever been. I was like the most muscular I've ever been. I'll show you pictures.
Oh, then you went vegan.
It was disgusting.
While you were vegan?
No, then I went vegan.
Oh, when you lost.
And within those 6 months, I lost like 3 inches in my fucking quads.
Oh, wow.
Like I was eating because, you know, as a vegan, you have to overeat to get enough nutrients.
But what were you eating?
Protein. I wasn't because most vegan, like people that start veganism are like, oh, I'm gonna eat a lot of pasta. It's vegan. I was making like tempeh and like whatever the fuck. Like I was eating like obviously the plant-based burger patties and shit, which aren't great for you, but I had like a variety of vegan shit. I was eating a lot of vegetables and whatever. I lost so much muscle in 6 months. I was like, I'm not doing this. It took me years to get here. Like, what the fuck? And I remember I went to Vegas to visit some friends, and my boy was grilling a fucking steak, and he's like...
And that
was your first one?
He's like, you want a steak? I'm like, yes, I fucking do.
You know that when I was a vegan, I literally would walk down the aisles in in stores, and I could smell the meat, and it would make me sick.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like, I was that, like, not, like...
Well, sometimes, I mean, I feel like dietary changes can fuck with your hormones as well. Like, and sometimes when our hormones are off, we have meat aversions, and I'm not sure why. Like, a lot of pregnant women, when they first get pregnant, they'll be disgusted by meat for the first couple months.
Well, you know, I think for me too, I wasn't. I when I met the girl, her name was Sarah. When I met Sarah, like I educated myself more, but like before that, I was eating a lot of processed foods because it was easy. I was eating like tofurkey, stuff. Like it was like super processed. But I was like, but listen, I'd go to family parties and I'm like, tofurkey, I'm eating Thanksgiving. I was like committed to this.
Yeah.
Like I was.
You're
committed.
like, I'll have your rice, but give me my
I was so committed to it. You know what I mean? But I was eating okra. I was eating like it was good. And then I went back to vegan, and then I went to pescatarian, and then when I went to California, I went back to. But you know, my problem was that I wasn't eating fats. I wasn't eating a lot of fat because I couldn't digest the fat because I had no gallbladder. But I didn't know these doctors. Again, they don't talk to you about nutrition, but the doctors that I was dealing with didn't tell me about bile salts. That I needed bile salts to help me break down the enzyme that I was missing in my stomach. And it wasn't until I was like 30, 32.
So you didn't eat fat for like a while.
I mean, I did, but I suffered.
Yeah.
But then you know what? When I started eating fats again and eating the meats and everything, I got leaner and leaner. And now today, I mean, I eat more fat than anything. Fat and protein.
Yeah.
Like carbs, I'm like, all right, I'll have potato, rice.
Yeah.
I eat whole foods, you know. But I'm all about, you know. And my best friend, who's also my diet coach, Melissa DeWeese, like she's been with me since 2015, 16, probably 2015, and she's watched the evolution of me, and she's like, you know, trying to get me to. She doesn't force it on me but I'm like, oh my god. You know, like I don't have to run 6 miles and I can eat fat. Like that's like my big thing.
I eat a lot of fat too. People are like, what
I love it.
I'm like, it fuels your cells, guys. Like it really does.
I
like,
feel great. I put the coconut oil in my coffee, not because it's bulletproof, but because I enjoy the taste. It fills me, and then I'll go for a run, and then I'll come back. And this morning I made French toast. I do Ezekiel bread. Yeah. And I made French toast. I do a whey protein. Very rarely I do whey. It's like a quarter of the cup of whey, and I'll make with the egg whites. I'll make the French toast like that with a little bit of vanilla, some cinnamon. Yeah. But I'm doing this new, it's by True Nutrition. It's this grass-fed beef isolate. Okay. And I'll tell you, my body, you should try it.
The protein you're talking about? Okay.
Have you ever tried? I'll bring you some.
I have, the one that I'm doing now is...
Like I can feel my body just absorb it. It loves it. And it's no bloat. I don't feel heavy. It's just it's grass-fed beef isolate.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
I think
It's very
that's the one that I take is that same grass-fed beef.
Is it True Nutrition?
No, it's another
Okay.
brand. It's called
Okay.
Irish something. Irish Dairy or
Irish Dairy.
The one I
believe.
just showed you. Yeah.
Oh, it's
yeah.
so
It's actually really good.
I
and-
love it.
I get it
My
like
body's
plain and I put it in
So-
yogurt.
No flavored, unsweetened. And what I do is I put it in a shake. I took 2 cups of almond milk, a half a tablespoon of almond butter, and a half a banana. And I'm
Sounds
set.
amazing.
It's so good.
Well, you know what's funny? You were talking to me about that because that's why I asked you if it was pea based or what kind of protein was it? Because certain proteins
Absolutely not fucking pea based. Animal based always.
Okay. Well, no, the reason I was asking
Trying me.
because here's the reason. I tried egg based protein and I tried certain whey proteins and they just would destroy my stomach.
yeah, bloat or something like that. Yeah.
This was the one you had? Great.
What is your? I mean, I don't know if Mexico would be the answer to this because you told me that is like the movies over there. But what's the most memorable town that you fought in?
I'd have to say probably Mexico. Probably when I fought for my first world title, I think it was so memorable because it was just me and my coach, and we went out there, and it was in like a big, I don't know, was it Bull Stadium or soccer stadium? It was huge, and I remember we had a driver. I think I told you the story. We had a driver that would drive us. That was like, the promoter had the driver take us to the gym or whatever I needed. He brought me everywhere, and it was just me and my coach. And he wanted to bring a second person to put the chair and the stool in and hand him the water and everything. So he asked the driver to work my corner. So he actually...
Was he your cut man as well?
No, Haas did the cuts too.
Okay,
Sometimes
okay.
coaches will do both.
Okay.
But yeah, I fought for my first world title for the WBC interim world title.
With a taxi driver.
With my guy Jorge.
That's
Jorge.
There you go.
You know what? And he brought his whole family.
Oh man.
And they were just cheering me on.
Oh, how
It was
fun.
awesome, and so it was cool. Like, I'm glad that I can provide that opportunity. It was cool because, listen, I'm very blessed for the life that I live, and if I can invite people in to experience things and get to see it, it makes me feel like it's a different experience every time with a new person.
How awesome!
So I'm not
yes.
doing it by myself,
Yeah.
But that was really
Hilarious.
cool. Like, I was like, whatever you say, coach. Like, I just want to fight. You know what I mean?
He's like,
Yeah.
métele piñazo en la cara.
Yeah, that was
Dale.
it.
Let's go.
Vámonos. But it was like, it was really cool. It was a really
Cool.
cool experience.
Neat.
And so I think that was in Los Mochis, Sinaloa. And
So you were. That's Mexico, yeah.
dude.
Sinaloa is a very interesting part of
Yeah, she's
Mexico.
not
Los
talking about
Mochis is a
Cancun
very...
and shit. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I fought in Cabo, I fought in Colima, I fought in Sinaloa, in Los Mochis, I fought in Tijuana, in Baja. Yeah, I fought a lot in Mexico. I mean, listen, I'm Mexican, and listen, I've always been proud. I used to fight. Well, I do still. I have the skirt, Mexican Irish flag. Yeah,
Nice.
my dream is to fight in Ireland. That would seal the deal for me. And
Oh my goodness,
that's been
yeah.
talked about, so that may happen. So I never would have dreamt of this life. Like, I can't tell you from. And they say, the whole, being a girl from the Bronx. And, I mean, yeah, you know what I mean? But but I mean, I feel like everybody kind of says that, but I'm just like, every day, I'm just like, it's like, what's next? And I learned to not say no. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain opportunities, like, I danced in a salsa tournament in Oxnard, California, the Oxnard Salsa Festival, because I was asked to help raise money for it was a non-government funded transitional living facility for homeless families, or homeless children and their families. And I was all about it. It was with my church, and I helped bring domestic violence awareness, and I spoke. I do motivational keynote speaking. And I did all that, and then I was able to do this salsa. I got to train for 8 weeks to dance salsa, and I can dance, but this is a whole different
when
animal.
you are training boxing, you look like you're
Oh,
dancing.
yeah,
every time I see it, I'm like, she's dancing.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
what the
because
fuck?
that's because of my salsa. So
Really?
I didn't understand that. So I always danced. I always liked to dance, but I didn't understand traditional salsa and bachata merengue and to dance with a professional partner. And then when I did it and I learned it, just first of all, I went out dancing the first night, and mind you, I'm not guys. I don't know these people. They're all like, oh, the kid is my dad. I'm like, okay, and they're dancing with me, and they're like, relax. I'm like, I am relaxed. Relax.
My shoulders are always like this.
And I'm like, not relaxed. Yeah. But I realized that I wasn't relaxed. So it was it relaxed me, and it helped me with the styling, helped me to even with my boxing, to relax my shoulders. I know when I'm stiff, I know when I'm relaxed, and then the dancing. I'll play the music in my head, or I'll play the music, I'll play dance salsa. The guys hate it.
In the gym or
because they
whatever.
listen to some I don't even know.
Yeah.
They put on some. I'm like, there's a rhythm to this. It's like, that's all it sounds like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, what are we doing?
Like,
Yeah. It's like, what? And then like, it's like in the middle of it, like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
What does he do? Like old like Tony Bennett?
Everything. He does
Oh.
everything from the 40s to the current. Like he'll do everything.
Amazing.
And he's super like old school. Come up if you want to come up.
Wait, and this is in an Italian restaurant?
It's called La Sorelle, and it's in Boca, and the food is amazing. And I'm getting a reservation. So my friend Anthony, he just turned 92.
Oh my.
I have friends that are 92.
She has like
Yeah.
old friends.
Yeah,
She's
like,
like, oh, I was just at my friend's
Well-
birthday. He turned 87. I'm like, oh, okay.
So it's really funny because apparently all the good Italian food is basically up there.
Yeah.
Boca apparently has the
This
best.
place is amazing.
Really?
Like
Okay.
it's Les Sorelle's, those three sisters, and they own 3 locations, and they're
Uh-huh.
from Italy. And then I met her husband.
Well, La
who's-
Sorella is
Yeah,
three
they're
sisters, yeah.
And then her husband is Luigi, who I met, and he's like wonderful. And they're like the food, the veal chop is like the size of a plate.
Yep.
It's like it's everything.
Did they do the cookies that have the ones from the delis, the Italian delis?
black and
that-
white?
Well, that and also the ones that are like green, red, and yellow.
Oh,
on the
like
inside.
no. I don't know if they have those. No, they made a.
They have the black and white cookies?
A Napolitano.
Oh.
My
Oh,
God. Oh,
boy.
they made this. No. They had pastry puff. With
Is
We're
there-
just like, I know.
Is there on a set at the end? Oh my gosh.
It's
Yes!
just, they make this
Okay,
thing.
then it's legit. If there's on a set, then it's legit.
It's
I
not even
can't
words.
watch
It's
it.
just sound
It's
effects.
like, yeah, I'm like drooling all over myself.
I'm so hungry. They make this. All you said was veal chop. Everything else was.
I'm already picturing it, and it's in my head,
No,
and
they
you know.
make a Nutella. It's called Nutellini, and it's a pastry puff with Nutella and mascarpone.
Oh, I love that.
I haven't had real Italian food since I
this
was
place
last
is-
in New York, and that was almost
Oh.
10 years ago.
I love Italian.
Oh yeah.
food.
Yeah.
Oh no, I ate at a few Italian places in New York. I mean, there's tons. I mean, on the
Yeah,
reg,
yeah.
You know, it's like.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, do you have a fight coming up?
Well, I
What's going on?
did. So we're waiting now. I'm looking at the end of July. I'm just getting back. This is my first day back. Was like yesterday. I was sick for like 3
Oh,
weeks.
true,
I had
true,
that
yeah.
terrible sinus infection, which I never get sick. It was horrible.
Okay.
And then so now I'm back. I had my first day back. Actually, yesterday I boxed. Monday, Tuesday, today strength training. I ran. I feel great. I have a really good base for my strength. You know, so I feel really good and really ready to start the camp and just keep going. I just have to gain some weight. I went down to like 124 pounds, which is like crazy. I fight at 122.
Wow.
The thing is when you get sick and you don't taste anything, you don't want to eat anything.
Yeah.
Well, it was like, and it's crazy because I had an eating disorder. So usually when I'm stressed and sick, I'm like, I'll eat everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I have such a better relationship with food. But now I'm like, okay, but I realized like I had to just. But you know, I did my protein, but I didn't lose a lot of muscle. My body fat is 17%. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty. I did it in body today. So everything looked really good. My baseline numbers were good. I was scared when I got on the scale. I was like, I didn't want to see. You know, and like I was telling her, I lost my butt. Like the little that I had because I mean, you know, Mexicans,
That's
Irish,
easy.
like yeah, I'm like,
That's
I
easy
didn't
to
have
get back.
time to build it though. Like I just never because you know I know you got to eat a lot and you got to like I can't do focused training. Like everything I do is for performance.
Yeah.
Correct.
If the glute grows, it grows. If it don't grow, I'm like yeah, but I got
Would
I
the
got both
traps.
shoulders,
Like I got
yeah.
traps and shoulders.
Yeah.
I'm like just look at my back. Just don't look past my waist.
Would
I'm
ha-
okay with that.
Upper back only.
I know what I got.
would the glute actually help, like having a
Oh,
glute
power.
routine?
No,
with-
I just no.
with-
I have glutes. Like I have glutes,
Yeah.
but I just don't have a gadonkadonk. Like,
Okay.
You know what I
Gotcha,
mean? Like I don't
gotcha.
have a butt.
Well,
Neither
like
do
I
I.
don't even like.
small.
I feel like having a bigger lower bottom in boxing might be uncomfortable.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say,
I
yeah.
cannot. I've tried to like jump rope, and I'm like my thighs are in the
Yeah.
way of me
Oh,
doing
okay,
this. Like,
okay.
and I've hit pads a few times, and I'm like
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable. Like my lower
Yeah.
body feels uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
I
Okay.
feel too heavy. I feel like my thighs are like stuck together. I'm not.
But
as,
if
like,
you're slow,
quick.
you're not developing your fast twitch. You're slow twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those workouts, like I did a bodybuilding workout for 3 months just to experience it, and it was like hell. Good for you, bodybuilders. Like I'm all about it. I have so much respect because
Don't you feel like heavy and like? Dense
I felt
and,
like, but it was the diet, and it's like, oh man, it was a whole other animal. It was really good for my body because it refueled me and it gave me a break from everything else. But it was just so boring for me.
Wow. Yeah.
Like I got to train with a female, Hannah Ray. Tyler Ray is her husband. He's an MMA fighter, and I was happy I got to train with her. It was really awesome. 3 months of it, I was all about it. I gave her 100% of myself, but then I was like, Hannah, I can't do this no more. She's like,
Yeah.
I understand.
It's so
I tried.
different.
It's very different, and again, it's not like better or worse. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
But I tried it. I wanted to try it, and the booty was growing.
Yeah.
It was getting there. I was
Did the
definitely eating a lot of carbs.
Yeah.
Did the boredom come from the exercise routine or the nutrition or a
No,
little
it
bit
came
of
on the
both?
fact that I wasn't able to punch shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like I
Yeah.
need to use total body.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be
So-
boxing forever.
Yeah,
Talk about
you're
nose
obviously
job.
you're not gonna be boxing forever. You mentioned that you're going to stop boxing once you get your nose done.
I get my nose fixed.
Yeah, exactly. So I was curious if after boxing you would do like commentating, coaching, managing, anything like that.
I mean, I did managing. You know, I manage a fighter right now. It's hard. The management part is hard because I just can't want it for them more than they want it for themselves, and then I'm very specific in how I do things. So maybe management, depending on the fighter, I'd probably, you know, it depends. You know, but that's something that I'd more do for the fighter than for myself. But then definitely commentating. I love the commentating. I've done some acting, but that wasn't something that I wanted to do. It just kind of happened. So, you know, if that came up, or, you know, I mean, there's a lot of different things, but I love business. I really enjoy business. I love running businesses. I've done that.
I mean, plus you're talented in so many different ways that I feel like any door can open for you and you'd be successful at anything.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I feel like it took a long time to actually realize that for myself, a lot of work, because there was a lot of like growth that needed to happen and a lot of challenges that needed to be met and overcame to get to the point that I am now, where like, and I think like turning 40, like I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like I'm just like, you know what, I'm like, whatever, like I can do anything. Yeah, if I can dance salsa in a salsa festival, you know, and box at Madison Square Garden, you know what I mean, like I can act with an Oscar award winner with Melissa Leo, I can do anything, you know what I mean. I'm very blessed, but I'm grateful, but that's the thing, I think every day just being grateful and just realizing that, like, you know, the people that I have around me, keeping the good people around me, seeing the red flags and the toxic behavior before it gets too late, you know, and just realizing, like, you know, and just knowing, like, everything has a reason, you know, and everything has a purpose, and God has a plan. God has a plan for my life. He always has.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I think that concludes the episode. Hopefully we didn't...
It's there. It's there.
Because I'm stressed.
You're stressing. Good.
So thank you to Miss Maureen Shea for coming through. Let everyone know where they can find you on social media or any of that.
So I'm on Maureen_Shea on Instagram, Maureen Shea on Twitter, Facebook. I mean, does anybody still use Facebook?
You have a YouTube channel, right?
Oh, yes, and at Shea Boxing on YouTube. There's my trainings there. You can check out some of my episodes recently that I just did. My trip out to up north that I just had. We're going to be doing some more footage of my training out there, you know, on the east. I say East Coast, like, no, up north. I said that. I was like, oh, the East Coast. I'm used to being on the West Coast, but New York is the East Coast. I'm like, you are the East Coast. Yeah, so up north. But you can check it out at Shea Boxing.
Okay.
Cool.
So
right
go
on.
subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go check her out on Instagram. Go follow all that good stuff. Again, of course, go follow Rabbits305 on Instagram, and you guys already know where to find me. Thank you guys to whoever tuned in on Twitch. I can't see from here, but shout out to you. And I think that's it.
Right on.
Bye.
Bye-bye.